Okay, we're going to go over a little bit of distributing and factoring. So the first problem on the distributing paper was actually number 20, and it told us to distribute x times x minus 5. What we're going to do is we're going to multiply x times x and x times negative 5. I like drawing arrows like this. And you want to remember that x times x is x squared. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. And that is, in fact, your answer. Your answer is x squared minus 5x. You can't combine these terms because you are not allowed to add or subtract x squared and 5x in combined terms. You can only multiply them. So then if we look at number 21, we have 4x times 2x minus 11. We have x times 7x plus 3. Again, we'll multiply x times 7x and x times 3. We can pretend like we have a coefficient of 1 here. So 1x times 7x is 7x squared, because anytime you have x times x, the result is an x squared. And then 1x times 3 is 3x. Now if you look at number 23, we have an 11 outside the parentheses, and we're multiplying 11 times 3x minus 5. 11 times 3x. Just multiply the coefficients, but keep the x. So that's 33x. And then 11 times negative 5. Just write the product. 11 times negative 5, negative 55. And we're done, because 33x minus 55 is as far as you can go. You can't subtract numbers, you can't combine like terms if they don't both have a variable. Then we have number 24, negative 4x, 13x minus 3. And I suggest pausing the video and doing 24 and 25 on your own. And then when you think you have the answer, turn the video back on to see if you got the same thing I got. Negative 4x times 13x. Multiply the negative 4 times the 13. You get negative 52, and x times x is x squared. The negative 4x also has to multiply by negative 3. And don't get too hung up on the fact that that's a minus. You just literally multiply negative 4x times negative 3. The answer is positive 12x, so you literally just write the product right here, and the sign works itself out. 25, again, if you haven't done it yet, I suggest pausing the video and trying it on your own. Negative 10x and 11x plus 15. Remember, this is a multiplication problem. So we're doing negative 10x times 11x. I do have an x times x, which is going to result in an x squared. Negative 110x squared minus 150x. Again, I can't combine these because that's an x squared and that's an x. So I'm done. The next part of the paper talks about factoring out, and it's the reverse of distributing. So if you look at number 26, you'll notice that it's actually the answer to number 20. So I was trying to demonstrate, at least for this one, that we sort of have inverse operations here. When we refer to factoring out, we mean dividing, really, and dividing out the greatest common factor. So what's the greatest common factor between x squared and 5x? It's actually x. So we're going to write x, and then we're going to write the other part of the multiplication problem in here. I want to pause just for a second, though, and show you why x is a common factor. You don't have to write this down, but if you did a factor tree for x squared, you would say that to get a product of x squared, you have to multiply x times x. And if I did a factor tree for negative 5x, I'd say, oh, to get a product of negative 5x, I have to multiply negative 5 times x. What's the common factor? Well, they both have an x for a common factor. That means both of these can be divided by x. That's what we're looking for. So I factored out an x. And then most people kind of do this in their head. They say, hey, I want this to be a multiplication problem. X times what will get me back to x squared? Well, that's x times x. X times what will get me back to negative 5x? Well, that's negative 5. And then you just check. X times x, x squared. X times negative 5, negative 5x. So then look at 27. It is, again, not exactly an inverse of 21. I think this was the only one that I lined up. But 27, you start with 7x squared minus 3x. And you think, what's the greatest common factor between these? Well, 7 and negative 3 don't have a common factor. Some people think of it like if you had a fraction, 7 over negative 3, could you simplify it? No, because they don't have any common factors. Do x squared and x have a common factor? Yeah, x. So basically, if both terms have an x, you can always factor out an x. So now what would go here? If I want to do a multiplication problem and the answer is going to be 7x squared, I need x times 7x. If I'm going to multiply x by something and the answer is going to be negative 3x, I need to do negative 3 here. So x times 7x, 7x squared, x times negative 3 equals negative 3x. 28, if you look at these numbers, you'll see that the coefficients have a common factor of 7. And the variables have a common factor of x. So I'm going to factor out 7 is a factor of both of these and x. So I'm going to factor out 7x. And then what goes inside the parentheses is what I can multiply by 7x to get back to here. The inverse of multiplication is division. So if I'm trying to answer 7x times what equals 35x squared, I really could do a division problem. And by the way, no one actually does it this way. But we could do the division problem, 35x squared divided by 7x. That will tell me what to put here. 35 divided by 7 is 5. X squared divided by x is just x. But almost no one does that division problem. They do it by looking at it. 7x times what will get me negative 14x? Negative 14x divided by 7x, negative 2. Check your work. 7x times 5x, 35x squared. 7x times negative 2, negative 14. I would pause if I were you and try the last two on your own. And here's number 29. If you have 18x minus 15, the only common factor here is a 3 because they don't both have an x. All I can factor out is a 3. 3 times what equals 18x? Or 18x divided by 3 equals 6x. 3 times 6x, 18x. Negative 15 divided by 3, negative 5. So 3 times 6x, 18x. 3 times negative 5, negative 15. So that is the factored answer. Number 30, you should factor out a 4. If you factored out a 2, you just didn't find the greatest common factor. We're looking for the greatest common factor. Both of these divide by 4. They both do not have an x, so I cannot factor out an x. 20x divided by 4 is 5x. Another way to think of that is 4 times 5x will get me a product of 20x. 4 times what equals negative 44? Well, that's negative 11. So there we go. 4 times 5x equals 20x. 4 times negative 11 equals negative 44. That was the first page of things that we did in class. In the next video, I will do the box multiplication and distribution that you will find on the next page.